Hello and welcome to today's video. We're going to recap MSI 2024, some stats that I've been compiling throughout the entire tournament, total plays per game, grubs per game, heralds, drakes, and then also how efficient teams were on the power play and how well they were defending against Baron. And then afterwards, I have some laning stats to talk about for individual players, so stay tuned for that. We're just looking at these, trying to draw some conclusions and discuss them. So, plays per game, determined by me, usually. I didn't include jungle. In hindsight, I should have, and I mentioned it during the tournament, but once we were midway through the tournament, I wasn't going to go back and go through the VODs. I don't have time to go back through the games like that. So, right now it's just outnumbered situation in lane. Was there a dive attempt? Was there a gank attempt? That was actually, something of value, right? I don't believe if a player kind of walks on into lane and doesn't even attempt an ability, is it really a gank? I don't really think so if it doesn't back off the enemy team. And I don't believe in, someone might be in the bush, therefore it's a gank. It's like, no, that's you cannot guarantee that the enemy team actually knew that person was in the bush to actually affect their play. So plays per game, top esports were the most active. On average, 2.8 plays per game. The least active team, Team Liquid, 2.09. So everybody on average between 2 and 3 plays per game. The five most active teams were the five. Well, 1, 2, 3. I was going to say the 5 are the best, but actually Fnatic were very high. So, Team Liquid, one of the worst. PSG, one of the worst. So them being at the bottom 2, not a big surprise. In terms of making things happen, people are now going to say, Fnatic lost to Team Liquid and this or that. It's like, yeah, but I think I said I liked Fnatic a bit more than Liquid anyways. So grubs per game, what teams were emphasizing taking grubs? Gen.g, the most, on average, 3.5 per game. So on average, they got the bulk of the grubs. Only, half the teams can claim that, and they are the 4 best teams at this tournament. If you really want to think about it, G2 played very well. They lost to T1, but G2 had some games where they were able to really boost their stats. 3.29 for G2, BLG over 3, as well as top esports all getting the majority of the grubs. Teams that really couldn't, PSG, they got under 2 a game in the main event. By the way, this is only main event. I didn't include PSG or Fnatic stats. T1 or top esports from play-ins, because those stats obviously are boosted and messy. Heralds per game. So BLG on average, almost 2 out of every 3 games, 3 out of every 5, they were able to take Herald, which we noticed against even gen.g in their 4-game series, where BLG actually took 3 of the 4 Rift Heralds. And against T1, I think a similar thing occurred as well. So BLG really emphasizing Rift Herald at this tournament, where Team Liquid and top esports just over 1 out of every 3. So not trying to get Heralds, and Team Liquid not really getting grubs at all either. Drakes per game. Gen.g on average, 2.67. It's between 2 and 3 Drakes a game. And PSG the least, just over 1 a game. And it's not a surprise because PSG were a quick... they struggled in this tournament in the main event. But I think that was kind of to be expected. Going 5 games against BLG was nice, but then they followed it up with a quick 3-0 loss. And then other teams that emphasize Drakes, top esports. So gen.g and top esports are on their own tier when it comes to Drake priority. And then you have BLG, T1, G2 all around 2. We also have to think about this as well. These teams did not play equal schedules, right? The strength of schedule is very skewed when you have a situation like gen.g, BLG playing so many games against each other, T1 playing BLG so much, and, that's going to help them versus possibly, that's going to hurt them relative to teams that didn't play as many tough games as they did. Power play. So who was the most efficient when they had Baron? Keep in mind, this does not include the 1,525 gold you get base when you take Baron with a full roster alive and the 25 gold for hitting it. So On average, Top Esports got over 3,500 gold a Baron. Fnatic, only 1,000. So Fnatic not really getting a lot done with their opportunities. Another thing that's interesting is Gen.g below 2,000. You'll say, but they got, this, that, and the third. And it's like, yeah, well, they had a lot of Barons yesterday and did like nothing with most of them. And that really hurt their stats when it came to sieging. Like, they really weren't that efficient with Baron when you look at the entirety of this event. And you have to keep in mind, just like I said, they played BLG a lot. They played good teams. So that's going to happen. They didn't get to play a lot of bad teams and pad their stats. Another team over 3,000, G2. G2 very efficient with their Barons, 3,100 gold. And we also have to, I keep saying we also have to think, but we also have to consider that a lot of these Barons ended games too. So teams, how they decided to end games does change how much gold they get. If they have to get another Baron with not much really left on the Rift to take, it's going to hurt their sieging stats. And at the same time, though, maybe they could have ended with the one they had previously when they took everything. PK, so penalty kill. Hockey term. You got power play, you got penalty kill. I guess you could say anti-siege or play against Baron or whatever you want to do. But the team most efficient against enemy Barons, Gen.g. And maybe that's a big reason why they won. Limiting the damage when the enemy team got Baron. On average, the enemy team only gained 522 more gold than the 1525 they got automatically when they took the objective. And you look at this, Top Esports allowed 3,535 gold, 3,535. So that's a massive difference. That's a 3,000 gold difference when a team got Baron against Top Esports relative to Gen.g. Gen.g were able to limit the damage, extend games. We saw that yesterday with a very long finals. PSG struggling. They didn't play many games and on average gave up 3,400 gold of Baron. Team Liquid, 2,900. Another very efficient team, though, BLG, and that's not a surprise either, 1,700 gold. They also limited the damage when the objective was taken, and in part, that's a good way to find a way to win a game, right? Even if the Baron is stolen or you lose a team fight, you're still able to, pull yourself up and be like, okay, we're going to limit the damage from this and try and recover in 2.5, 3 minutes. And that's what these two teams really did. And that's in part why they ended up in the finals yesterday. So I figured we'd go over these stats. I think they're kind of interesting stuff that some of the stuff you're not going to find anywhere else, even plays per game, is 100% my opinion. But as far as power play and PK, I do have some fun ideas that I wish League would incorporate to make Baron a little bit more powerful or a little different. But yeah, so that's another thing. If I need a video idea during the off season, way after Worlds, because I'm sure I'm going to have plenty of things to talk about between now and when LEC or whoever starts first. But that'll be an interesting thing to talk about. I have some fun ideas. But regardless, that's the first half of the video. Now on to the second half. All right, so we have gold difference, CS difference at the end of laning phase determined by me when the first turret fell, roughly. Now, that's a lot at one time, and you're going to say roughly, but these stats are very particular. You have them, very particular. And I'm going to say these are rough estimates for these stats because you look at the scoreboard, it's to the closest 100 gold, right? So we have to think about that it's to the closest 100 gold. It's being rounded, and I'm utilizing that, as well as the fact that sometimes a turret would fall, but the scoreboard wasn't up because there was a team fight or something, and you got to wait until the scoreboard comes up to actually do something, with the stats. So just keep that in mind. This is rough estimates, but I think we can look at it and find some things to discuss. So top lane. No surprise that Asia and Impact very behind on average. They're on average behind Impact 455 gold at the end of laning phase and Asia 575. That's massive. CS difference, Impact on average behind 13. Keep in mind though, lane swaps definitely screwed with these stats, but it is what it is. If you watched, you can just do the thought process and add context and nuance and all that shit if you want to. Some big numbers though. So Bin on average up 282 gold, Keen 231, 3 CS apiece. And those two often considered to be the two best at this tournament. 369 is an elite top laner as well. Somebody that a lot of people are going to think shouldn't be first in the world, and that video will be made a couple weeks from now. I allow tournaments to leave my mind for the most part before I try and update my top 5 lists. Just because I think recency bias plays a massive role when people do tier lists and things after tournaments, and then it's just gross in my opinion. So 369 on average up 90 gold, 2 CS, so pretty much even. But Keen and Bin decent leads. Zeus behind 80 gold, and BB up 60. Zeus up 5 CS. That was the most in the CS department. Jungle. So gen.g, surprisingly, the most behind at 390 gold. You wouldn't think that going into the event, but gen.g did struggle for most of the games in terms of gold, yet was still up. The most CS was 6. So farming, but farming wasn't really the name of the game in the beginning of the main event. You can farm all you want, but the enemy jungler was making things happen. In the case of maybe Yike against PSG, or Shun in the case of BLG, and Shun was behind 170 gold, 10 CS on average. He was not farming. He was trying to make things happen. And also, Shun left a lot to be desired at this tournament. BLG get to the end. But playing into Canyon, what was it, 9 times? Definitely, no, it was 8 times. 8 times. Was definitely part of the reason why his numbers are the way they are. I think they may have played almost 20 games, and 1/3 of them, if not more, were against Canyon, which I'd consider to be the jungle GOAT. Going into this event, and 1A, 1B with Kanavi, and at this point, he's probably 1A now that he won, but that's like I just said about recency bias. I allow that to leave my mind before I think about that stuff. Speaking of Canyon, on average up almost 200 gold, which isn't massive, but it was the most at this event. 3 CS. Tien up 105. Razork also up 6 CS. Owner 170, Yike 50, but really the guys behind, gen.g, Shun, and Umpty. I'm honestly surprised that Shun ended up so far behind in gold. But like I said, he did have moments that kind of made you scratch your head, and his opponents were not easy to play against. Mid lane, so on average, Maple got turbo gapped. On average behind 1,050 gold. That is gapped. That's a massive item. That is a diffie. And also 17 CS behind. Now, a puzzling stat is Chovy, only up 25 gold, but 11 CS. So his enemy, mid laner, going around making things happen to limit the damage in the gold lane, in the mid lane. When it came to CS, I mean, Chovy gets the 11 CS lead, but doesn't get gold from it. And that's why gold is more important than CS in these numbers, in my opinion. But at the same time, CS is a more consistent way to find gold. So we can draw something from it and say, oh, well, this player CS as well. Therefore, they reliably get a lot of gold, where kills are not as reliable as, simply farming. So that's a thing. APA, behind 427 gold, 9 CS. Once again, it's not a surprise that PSG and TL have the 2 lowest scores in the laning phase. Cream, behind 64 gold. Humanoid up 200, but both behind 7 CS. Knight, 277 gold, 5 CS. He actually was second. Faker, 140 and 4 behind. And then there's Caps. So Caps got a lot of help in lane. A lot of games where they really ensured that Caps got ahead. And he ran with it. He played excellent League of Legends at this tournament. He's played very good League of Legends all year, much better than last year. As he took on a facilitator role and allowed Yike to carry as the rookie. But Caps up 628 gold, 11 CS on average, which is a sizable difference. That is a lead that makes a difference as the game goes along. Caps was one of, if not the best mids at this tournament. Now Chovy ended up playing Knight a ton of times, which hurts his stats, so we have to kind of take that for what it is. Like I said about Shun and Canyon, I mean, Chovy and Knight are the two best mids in the world. So it's funny, we barely saw that matchup over their careers, right? I think only 2020 Worlds did we see it. The group that had FlyQuest go 3-3, Chovy was on DRX, Knight on Top Esports, and then Unicorns of Love with No Man's, Cassidon in the mix, which is probably what I draw from 2020 Worlds in that group stage, that group in particular, more than anything else. So we got 9 games of them at this tournament, and frankly, we were pretty spoiled by that, to be able to really look at the Chovy Knight matchup and see it go back and forth. A lot of people wanted to say, oh, Chovy dominated Knight. Frankly, I don't believe that happened. You look at the gold differences, you look at the CS differences, and in the 1v1, that was not a big difference. You can look at the end of game stats all you want, but I've said this a couple times, I'm going to say it again. What transpires after the laning phase is not a 1v1, it's a 5v5. Yes, a player can individually make mistakes, but it's not necessarily always going to be caused by the opposition's reciprocated role, if you will. So that's the thing. Bot lane. So Yeon Core JJ behind massively, on average 900 gold. That's a difference, right? Combined. Jackie Love Mako up almost 500 gold. Betty Woody behind 900 gold. So once again, TLPSG numbers low. Betty Woody also behind 6 CS. Hans Sama and Mickey up 500 gold on average, and only up 2 CS. So Hans and Mickey playing a lot of, I mean, honestly, even when they played against T1 and Top Esports, they were coming out of laning phase with some good numbers in a few of those games, if not the majority. So you do have to give them credit for that, and also think about that relative to T1 in particular, whose numbers were 200 gold, 5 CS, and that was it. Yeah, they played BLG and Elkanon, but they also didn't dominate Hans and Mickey quite as much as the score would indicate when you look at the you look at the scoreboard. So yeah, Jackie Love Mako up 6 CS. Noah June down 300. Pays and the Hens up 401 CS. I have a lot of people in the comment section upset that, I'm not, I guess glazing Pays and the Hens after their performance in finals, that, I shouldn't be, mentioning that Elk was ill, that was not relevant. And I just think that is silly, to say the least. But seeing where it came from, it makes sense. So, you can't fix that. You just simply can't fix people like that. So, as far as this is concerned, Pays and the Hens, great tournament. Obviously, Paves comes away with the 28 kill game, which we looked up as the third most all time in any tier of LOL Esports, and it is 5 kills more than what was the record for a major region or international event. Space of CJ Entis in Champions 2013 against KT had 23 kills on Ezreal, and that was the old record for a tier 1 region, and now Pays has that record by 5. It's truly incredible that kid is now going to have an opportunity to continue to develop and take the role that, I keep saying it, but apparently people in the comments yesterday think that I underrate Pays and the Hens going into this event, but I've said it all along, Pays is going to be one of the best and will be the best AD carry in the world before his career is done. So that's it for this video. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, like it, subscribe to the channel for daily League of Legends content. Follow me on Twitter, join the Discord, become a YouTube supporter, and hope to see you again tomorrow.